Hey, good evening, friends. Welcome to a Friday night forensics with Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the breaking news out of the Nancy Guthrie investigation. On the 6-month mark, Sheriff Nanos decided to release the ransom notes that we already knew the contents of these ransom notes, but we're going to get into that tonight. We're going to talk about the forensics because we got our expert, Ed Wallace, joining us, and we miss you guys. I've been on vacation out of town. Ed's out of town all summer long at his second home. It's really not out of town for him, but it's good to have everybody here on a Friday night. I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. But Ed, let's talk a little bit about what Sheriff Nanos, or the lack of what Sheriff Nanos said to many news outlets. If you noticed, he went on with a young kid from YouTube. He also went on with all of the local stations. But again, word salad, really not a lot. And he didn't take charge and let these perpetrators know, we're going to come for you. We're going to get you. He's had many opportunities.
Yep. Again, there's a lot of confusion with every time he has a press conference, and then allegations and pointing fingers, and they release the full content of the 2 ransom notes, and which I find quite interesting. And hopefully we can get one of our forensic friends to come on and discuss the content of those letters in a future show, and what he sees from the author of these 2 notes. In addition, then we have this bombshell that the hair DNA yielded nothing. There was no DNA from the hair. And I'm very disturbed by that. There's a number of legitimate reasons why a hair sample would not yield even a mitochondrial DNA profile. But, we're going to get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Ed, a lot of people are confused about, what Sheriff Nanos was saying, or the lack of what he was saying as it pertains to the strand of hair being inconclusive, was his words. But there were so many different controversies surrounding this case, which makes it so hard to kind of follow. I want to play a little piece for some of our people here. This is going to just put it all into perspective from the beginning to the end. And this is from a local station. We're going to just take a listen to this, and we'll come right back. It's only a couple of minutes long.
It's been nearly 6 months since 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Catalina Foothills home, launching one of Southern Arizona's most complex investigations. Let's start from the beginning. January 31st, Nancy Guthrie has dinner with her family. She's dropped off around 10 p.m., and that is the last time she is seen by anyone. Moving forward, let's go to February 1st. February 1st, we know the doorbell camera was disconnected and her pacemaker loses connection pretty early in the morning. Now we go to February 2nd. This is when the Pima County Sheriff's Department begins asking for footage from various people who live in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood. At about 6:40 that same day, 13 News receives a supposed ransom note sharing some sensitive information later released by the FBI about items in Nancy's room and home, and asking for Bitcoin and giving a deadline. And then on Friday, February 6th, 13 News receives another note from a supposed abductor, and that note was sent to law enforcement immediately. Now, between this time, the Guthrie family released a number of videos pleading with the captor to let their mother go. And then on February 10th, investigators released those haunting images and videos of a person going up to Nancy Guthrie's home, messing with her doorbell camera. Again, we were initially told that those videos weren't able to be accessed, but after further digging on February 10th, we received those videos and photos, and the search, of course, intensified greatly. That same day and in the days that followed, multiple people were detained, questioned, and released, but there was no concrete evidence tying them to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Now let's go to February 17th, where DNA that was found in Nancy Guthrie's home that was not hers turned up nothing in the FBI's database. However, tips continue to pour in and still are pouring in to this day to 88 Crime, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and the FBI. And the reward for anyone with information leading to Nancy Guthrie went to $1.2 million, and that is where it remains today. Here we are this week, July 27th. Savannah Guthrie released another plea to the captor, asking this person to make the right choice and help them find her. For now, the family and all of Southern Arizona is waiting for the answer to the one question that matters most. Where is Nancy Guthrie?
So I thought that was a good basic overview of where we're at from the beginning to now. You know, a lot of people in the chat and, you know, on our website, we get a lot of questions, you know, right back to day one. And I look to you, and everybody looks to you for answers as it pertains to crime scene and evidence collection. And I've asked you this time and time again, but I think it's important on the 6-month mark here. How crucial and how important is it for crime scene and evidence collection to happen the right way at the get, right from the beginning?
Well, I always teach my students, you know, you only have one shot at it. And those first 24 hours are the crucial time period. And you can't make up in the laboratory for mistakes made with the evidence in the field. It just doesn't work that way. So, it's critical to understand what you're looking at in terms of a criminal investigation. You know, we have this problem time and time again with missing persons, where law enforcement doesn't give the missing person case the attention that it truly deserves, because they don't see the bigger picture until additional information comes out later that it's not a missing persons case. Now it's a homicide case. And we've gone over it on numerous high profile cases on our shows of just these things. And then you see cringeworthy events, how the evidence was being handled like a bicycle being touched with no gloves, and not documented as to where it was found and so forth. Okay.
Suzanne Morphew.
Yes, exactly. And let's not forget that case. So the critical aspects of the first 24 hours in identifying exactly what happened in terms of the crime and any physical and/or forensic evidence that may be present can't be overstated. Okay, and you got to get to this stuff as soon as possible, because a lot of the evidence is fleeting, is transient. And if you don't get to it immediately, or identify it immediately and collect it and package it and document it correctly and get it to the correct lab, okay, you can't make up for mistakes like that. You can't. It just doesn't work. Now, there are, as I said earlier, there are many reasons why a hair would not yield a mitochondrial DNA profile, okay, or a nuclear DNA profile if the root was present, okay. Some of those things are beyond the control of the crime scene investigator. How long has that hair been there? What is the length of the hair? What was the exposure to the environment of that hair? Okay, was it too cold? Was it too hot? Was it impacted directly by the sun? UV can kill genetic markers and so forth. Was it chemically treated? Was the hair, did it come from somebody that used harsh chemicals to dye their hairs, or to treat their hairs, or to treat some kind of medical condition? What we don't know anything about the person that deposited the hair,
Right.
and how was it deposited? Was it torn out? Did it fall out? What was the means that the hair was deposited?
And
So
there was so many mistakes from the get-go. We look at that doormat, and that drives me crazy every time I see the video. And I know those of you in the chat who are following this case closely, let us know by putting a 1 in the chat if that doormat haunts you to this day. If that was my mother and I saw news reporters and random people walking up to that front doorway with the blood still there and different debris from the foliage that perpetrator tried to cover the camera with, that would drive me nuts and would be haunting me to this very minute. And when you see these flubs that are clear and apparent right up front, you kind of wonder, and guys in the chat, let me know if you're on board with this. You have to wonder when you see that, what mistakes were made on the inside of that home, what mistakes and crucial mistakes were made as it pertains to what Ed's talking about, evidence collection.
yeah, 100%. 100%. You look at that simple mat. Okay, why was it shown no forensic attention? Why did it not trigger something in the forensic investigators, especially given all the blood around it?
Right.
Okay. I just don't understand that. Honestly.
Yeah.
I would have treated it. I would have given it the full forensic treatment. That whole protocol, and following blood trails and identifying the blood trails and following them out to the front yard and seeing where they end and where they begin, and given all that attention there, I would have been looking at that whole area with a fine-tooth comb, forensic light sources, 3D laser scannings, luminol, LCV or amino black. I'd be using all my chemicals, my forensic chemicals, trying to extract every bit of forensic information that I could gather from that area, because obviously something significant happened in that portico by that mat. Yeah. With the blood that was present, the broken doorbell and missing doorbell, all of this information, the plant life, okay, that was on the ground by the mat. How did it get there? It didn't get there by itself. It didn't just like pull itself out by its roots and make its way over to the doorbell area. Right. Okay, I mean, some common sense here, folks. Common sense. If I see something like that, yeah, okay, now it becomes a question. How did that get there? How did that plant life get there? Yeah. What is going on here? What caused this? Now, this is obviously all before the video of the suspect grabbing the plant life and bringing it over and pushing it into the doorbell camera and so forth. We didn't know that. Nobody knew that at the time. But when you see this, you have to say, well, what kind of interaction caused this to occur here? And so you collect that stuff and you examine that mat and you collect that mat.
Right. Yeah. Ed, I was just looking at the phone and I'm looking at the chat. Sergeant Aaron Cross's mom, Mama Cross, is up on the screen here. She's putting a 1 in the chat. Everybody send some love to Sergeant Aaron Cross's mom. Always great to have Mama Cross in the chat, and everybody else joining. Schmitty, Princess Mitch, Desiree, Nottingham, Katina, Granny Debbie. Thank you, Joey Brooklyn, Becky B. Karen Cole, our good friend, legal-minded friend from the UK. Great to see everybody. So yeah, it is just a whole host of missteps early on from the get-go that we saw and identified, and that was so troubling. I mean, I remember from the beginning, Ed, you were saying, what in God's name is going on here? When we had the FBI, thank God that they got involved, but they got involved late because Sheriff Nanos refused to have them come in a timely fashion. Now, there's contradicting statements out there, right, Ed? We talked about this before we went live. There's Nanos is saying that that's not true. Pinocchio is saying it's not true, Nanos. And Kash Patel, the FBI director, is saying 100%. We were locked out of this thing for 48 hours. The first 48, and you say the first 24 is crucial. So somebody screwed up here, and I have to say, my heart tells me it's Sheriff Nanos, because he's got deep disdain for the FBI, and that's a fact. We found that out through Sergeant Aaron Cross and retired commanders who worked in second in rank right below Sheriff Nanos. We heard from him. We heard from the president of the union, Sergeant Cross, and these guys have no dog in this fight. They basically told us where Sheriff Nanos's stance is as it pertains to the FBI, and that's clear and apparent. So some people choose to just ignore it. We don't ignore it. The fact is those first 24 to 48 hours are crucial, and he screwed that up big time. Let's take a listen to this report from CBS talking about their interview with Sheriff Nanos.
New information revealed today in the search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie, nearly 6 months after Nancy was kidnapped from her home in Tucson, Arizona. Our Jonathan Vigliotti sat down with the sheriff who's at the forefront of the investigation.
I got to warn you, this is going to be frustrating to hear this, but it's important that we listen to some of the nonsense that he's spewing here. And basically, there's nothing new. He was asked if there's any new information or are they getting any closer? And he said, yes, we're getting closer. How are you getting closer when there's nothing new available? And we don't even see returns from search warrants that were conducted. Remember the flurry on Friday, the 13th in February, Ed, the flurry of search warrants that were conducted at multiple locations simultaneously, 2 different locations. We didn't hear any of the fruits of that labor. We don't know what was the outcome of it officially. We're all left to guess that the outcome was not negative, but we don't know. None of that stuff was revealed.
When a case goes cold, we don't give up on it. God forbid this ever take 50 years, but it could.
That statement tonight from Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, who said potentially critical evidence recovered from Nancy Guthrie's Tucson home, hair, came back inconclusive.
It came back with no results.
No results.
Yeah.
Was there blood that is still being analyzed right now that could belong to the suspect or suspects?
I know that there was blood at the scene.
That blood and...
But wait a minute, Ed. I'm going to put us back on so people could see that we're here. Correct me if I'm wrong. This blood at the scene, didn't Sheriff Nanos early on say that's Nancy Guthrie's blood?
Yes.
Am I going crazy? Or
No, he said that the DNA testing came back for Nancy.
right, but here, all right, let's listen to this. But essentially, I want to go back to the hair because he says it comes back inconclusive. I want you, because you're forensic expert. You worked in the DNA lab after you retired with Barbara Butcher. When we listen to this nonsense, we'll come back to the DNA from the hair inconclusive. I'm sure the audience wants to hear your take on it again. And then listen closely here, because he basically doesn't say to this reporter, hey, we checked that blood and I told you early on in February that was Nancy's blood. He doesn't say that here.
Blood that is still being analyzed.
home, hair, came back inconclusive.
It came back with no results.
No results.
Yeah.
Was there blood that is still being analyzed right now that could belong to the suspect or suspects?
I know that there was blood at the scene.
That blood and other DNA, Nanos says, has yielded no results. No new video has been recovered, and it appears the suspect or suspects evaded traffic cameras.
Do you think that the suspect or suspects could be local?
Sure, absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely. Do I have evidence of it? No, but let's look at crime across the country. 90.
Couldn't he have taken this opportunity, Ed, to look in this camera? And I say this all the time. People are going to be like, DutyRon, come on. Couldn't Sheriff Nanos taken the opportunity on one occasion? He did multiple interviews. This is like 1 of 5. Couldn't he have taken the opportunity right here to look in that camera and say, we're going to find you, we're going to hunt you down, and we're going to bring you to justice?
100%. And I know many sheriffs that would have done that.
Not this Pinocchio.
5% of your criminals are where? Right here locally.
Our family is in agony. We are in a nightmare that will not end.
On Monday, Savannah Guthrie addressed her mother's kidnapper, who it's believed sent 2 notes to the family before going silent.
So I'm asking you, begging you to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her.
You say you are optimistic, you're positive that there will be a resolution here. Is that based on any evidence that you have before you, or is that driven by your gut?
It's based on all the evidence before me. The bottom line here is this: we know more than you will ever know, because that's how investigations work.
The sheriff would not elaborate on the evidence, though he is saying this is far from a cold case. He is still calling on the public for help.
So there you have it. There's the tip line, 1-800. I have it scrolling down at the bottom, 1-800-CALL-FBI. That would be the only tip line that I would feel confident or comfortable calling a tip into. I personally, if I had a valid tip or something that came through to our website, DutyRon.com, I would call it in there. I wouldn't send it into Pima County. I'm not telling people not to send in tips to Pima County, but if you got a tip, I would say this would be my first choice. Ed, your thoughts?
Yeah, yes, definitely call the FBI. And I see some questions in the chat about how could a hair be inconclusive? Yeah, I mean, because there's all kinds of other testing that can be done on the hair, such as drug testing. Yes, that could be done. Was it done? We don't know. Did they ask for it to be done? Don't know. There's all kinds of mineral contents and all kinds of other testing that could be done to show metabolic materials that are present in the hair and so forth.
Yeah. The statement that he made, Ed, is getting people caught up. Basically, this is an old detective trick. He's basically saying, we know more than what we can tell you. There's nothing, Margaret. Thank you so much for the comment, and thank you to everybody who's engaging here. We appreciate you, as we love you, as we respect you. But I just want to give you a little bit of an inside tip as regards to that statement. He was basically trying to say, look, we know more than what we can tell the public, and we have the upper hand. But he really didn't say it the right way. But essentially, that's what that statement meant. Hey, I just want to get an idea from some of the folks in the chat. Thank you so much for being a member for 21 months. Good to see you. Art Hayden's Designed. Thank you so much for being a member. We love and appreciate you. Hey, I wanted to get an idea from some of you guys. Here's a little accolade for you from T. Roseberry. Thank you, Ed. You're awesome. Yeah, Ed is a big asset to this community. He's a world full of knowledge and information. He's smart on when it comes to forensics and everything else. So I wanted to get an idea from you guys. Savannah, Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Savannah, made a plea on her Instagram maybe 3 or 4 days ago. We uploaded that and we asked you for your thoughts. Does anybody here want us to play that and maybe just give our thoughts? And I know, Ed, you may have some thoughts as it pertains to that statement that she made on her Instagram. So put a 1 in the chat if you want us to play it real quick and then go over it. And then I want to come back to some of the, again, you addressed the hairs, but I also want to come back to the controversy between the sheriff and the FBI director, because that's ongoing. The FBI director was on, I think, Hannity. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed. Was it Hannity that I saw him do an interview on, where he talked about, for about 2 minutes, he talked about the failure of the Pima County sheriff to make the notification to him. So somebody's lying here, and I think Pinocchio is on the hook for the lie. So let's see. A lot of number ones. Ed, what do you see in the chat? I see a whole bunch. Julie, Trish,
A whole bunch of ones.
Lisa, James. Hey, good to see you, James. Thank you for joining. Hope the missus is good. Hi, Michelle. Wow, I didn't realize it. Under Your Scar says on Fox. I thought that's where I saw it, on Hannity or Fox. And that was today. I saw that today. Aunt BB2, great to see you. Schmitty says, yes, it was Hannity. All right, thank you. Trish, All right, let's do it. Let's cue it up. Where is it? Savannah Guthrie, please. You got to get the volume on. Oh, there it is. Her Instagram plea to the kidnappers of her mother, Nancy Guthrie. In a few short days, it'll be 6 months since the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie in her home in the Catalina foothills. Her daughter, Savannah, made a plea on Instagram, again, asking for her mother's remains to be brought home so the family can move on, as she said. Ed Wallace and myself will be live to discuss this shortly, but in the meantime, take a listen here and let us know what your thoughts
I'm
are.
coming on today with a very specific message. It has been months since our mom was taken from us. Our family is in agony. We are in a nightmare that will not end. Nothing about our situation has changed. We have done our part, and we will never stop looking for her. We will always ache for her and feel that hole in our hearts. The world can be a cruel and unforgiving place, and I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her. Tell us where to look for her. I truly believe it is never too late to do the right thing. Help us bring this situation to an end. For all of us, no matter where we've been and what we've done, I believe there is always a way home. Please make the right choice. Help us find her.
Okay, so Ed, I want to go to you right away on your thoughts on that. That was really just about a minute and a half of Savannah making a plea just several days ago.
Yeah, you can feel the desperation. You can feel the anguish that she is suffering. And I believe I heard also in an interview that she consulted with law enforcement before she made this statement. Okay, it's heartfelt. It's nerve wracking. At least for me, it is that they don't know where their mother is, and they haven't had the ability to give her a proper burial and funeral and send off that she deserves, and yet nobody has made an attempt to go get that $1 million. And I find that very interesting. That
She also says we did
forward to get that reward money and to give up these people.
Yeah. She also says in this plea here, she says, we've done our part. You know, a lot of people are questioning what she means by that. And, of course, because there's no extended interviews. She did an interview with her colleague, Hoda. I believe that was the last time we saw her have an in-depth interview. And there wasn't really a lot of questions asked of her of what the family is doing. And a lot of people in the chat and people who are following this case have questions of like, hey, what are they doing? Why didn't they pay the ransom money early on and with these two notes that we're going to get into in a short period of time here? We have our Lieutenant Bob Schaefer, who's a handwriting and an analysis expert. He is going to review both those notes and come on with us in the next few days and do a deep dive analysis of those notes that were sent to the news station locally there. So again, I really feel strongly that, this family, of course, is under tremendous scrutiny from the public. But at the same time, I feel like they are doing things that we don't know about. as it pertains to in the background of whatever they can do within the law, whatever, they're allowed to do. They are communicating, I have no doubt, with the FBI. There is no question, because Kash Patel, the FBI director, made it known that all of the resources of the FBI will be utilized here. And if asked, they will throw the kitchen sink, as Dave Rader says from EquiSearch Midwest, at this case. So there's no question in my mind that they have a lead investigator, the lead from the FBI. They're in communication perhaps with that lead. I don't think that they're communicating with Sheriff Nanos. This is my heart speaking. Correct me if you guys think I'm wrong in the chat. I feel that Cameron, Savannah's brother, and herself and her sister, they, like us, have lost all confidence in Sheriff Nanos. I don't feel like they have open line of communications with him, and it's clear and evident from when he's questioned about it. He says, yes, they have my number. When he's pushed about it, he says, no, there's been no communication between him and the family. So it's mixed messages, and there's a lot going on here. But, I feel like she here again was redundantly going back over what she said in some of the previous pleas. Like, look, there's no better time than now to do the right thing, and you can always redeem yourself. These are hardened criminals that do this type of stuff, and that's why, like, I look at the second note where they did the apology. Most bad guys, they don't apologize for abducting an 84-year-old woman. They're not nice people. They're not good people. And I don't feel like something tells me that that's not a legit note. And I know that there are a lot of people saying it is, and law enforcement has said that it is. But in my experience, I've never had a remorseful perp that was like, hey, look, I abducted your mother and she died, and I'm really sorry. I didn't want it to turn out this way.
And don't forget the first note too, because the first note said, okay, you have a certain amount of, the Bitcoin has to be in the account by this date and time. If you don't give us that Bitcoin at that date and time, you have until this date and time to get. No kidnapper does that. There's usually a threat there that if you don't meet the deadline for the first deadline that was set, then something bad is going to happen. Your loved one is going to be missing a finger or whatever. Something bad is going to happen to your loved one if you don't pay us up. No, but in that first note, they gave 2 deadlines. Who does that?
No, yeah, it's just odd and off-putting. That's for sure. I've never seen it in all of my time, and something just does not agree with, when you see that it doesn't pass the smell test, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so let's take a listen to Kash Patel. That's the FBI director. No matter how much you like him or hate him, or if you're in between, he's the director of the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. And right now, any family that has a missing loved one would be open arms to have the director of the FBI publicly talking about your loved one's case. And I do believe, and I'm going out on a limb here, but I don't really, as far as I'm concerned, this is it. It is what it is. I'm going to call. Ed, you always say we call the balls and strikes. If this wasn't Savannah Guthrie, this guy would not be on national television talking about the case, the FBI director. Because how many times have you seen former or current FBI directors talking about cases? You don't see this. They don't do this. So let's take a listen. This is from Hannity. It's only 2 minutes, so let's take a listen.
For Kash Patel. Director, please correct me if I'm wrong. Am I not correct in my understanding that he did not want the FBI involved in the very beginning? He did not send the evidence where it should have been sent, which would be to Quantico, the best equipment available. When the FBI finally was brought in, we finally got the biggest break in that case, which was you were able to use your connections to get that videotape of that guy trying to cover that camera. The biggest breakthrough in the case. He's saying this today, and I know it all to be a lie. Your reaction?
Look, Sean, the FBI, the world's premier law enforcement agency, is here to help in every missing persons case. And just like most missing persons cases, they're state-led cases because the state has a jurisdiction. And in this case, like others, we offered our help from day one. And if we'd gotten to some of that information and evidence earlier, you just outlaid what we did and what we can do. But the state has the right and the sheriff has the right to conduct his investigation, and he has the right to own it as well. They sent the DNA to a private laboratory, which took 6 weeks. We offered Quantico from Jump, the world's best laboratory. And of course, we worked with our private sector partners at Google brilliantly to show you that imagery and data from the Ring doorbell. But had we gotten there days earlier and access to it, we could have gotten more out of the cache data that was set to auto-delete because there was no subscription service to that product.
So in other words, if you got it earlier, if you were brought in earlier, they could have had the best people, the latest, greatest advanced technology, and they didn't have it. Let me talk to you about other on day one. And you were willing to help them on day one. Am I correct in that, sir?
Yep.
And President Trump tweeted out that every federal resource would be made available to them. So and they send some of the evidence to some independent lab in Florida. Made no sense.
Ed, you spoke about the independent lab. That was their contracted lab, right?
Yes.
What would be the upside? And I have to play the devil's advocate here with you. What would be the upside if that evidence went directly to Quantico or to the FBI and they did what they do with stuff? What would be better?
Let's start with the chain of custody. The chain of custody would have been far different than what was done here. They FedExed those samples to the lab in Florida. Here, the FBI would have taken control of it, signed for it from the sheriff's office, jumped on an FBI plane and flown it directly to Quantico, Virginia, to the laboratory. So you got that. And it would have been there much quicker. Okay. I don't know if, the FedEx service was overnight or, what the time frame was for getting the sample to the lab. It is the premier forensic law enforcement laboratory in the nation. Okay. And it has a track record and history of doing great work with DNA. And it has partners in private lab and university labs that they work with that have done great work for the FBI. And I think it would have gotten there faster. It would have been worked up faster. They would have been able to identify if they have the capabilities to do it in-house or had to send it to one of their contracted labs, and it would have gotten to the appropriate people in a more timely fashion. And it, potentially could have worked up a genetic profile.
Right. Yeah. So the chances are we would have had possibly, and as the FBI director alluded to here, is because they were dealing with the cache, no pun intended here with Cash Patel, but they were dealing with the cache on the Google Nest device. So if that device got to or the FBI got to doing their request, because remember, the FBI director made the request to Google to extract the video, right? That wasn't done by Pima County. That wasn't done by the detectives in homicide at Pima County. That was done by the FBI. So if the FBI was there 2 days earlier and if he immediately said, let's grab that missing front doorbell account and let's download what's on it, we may have had more, is what he's saying there. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's what I took away from it, was that had they gotten their hands on the cache information there and got it to Amazon in a more timely fashion, there was potential to retrieve more images and more information to assist in the investigation.
Right. And James says it here good. If we had additional footage, we may have had a vehicle. We may have had a second guy or girl. We may have had additional information. So, yeah, listen, let us know what you think in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel that, listen, what the FBI is talking about here, they know their stuff. The FBI is the premier law enforcement agency in America, and arguably in the world. But the bottom line is time is of the essence. And if they had this, if they were on this case prior to that 48-hour delay, who knows what have been extracted from that Google Nest camera that was removed by that perpetrator. So big time miss right here. A lot of number ones coming through in the chat. Gene Smith saying, Ed, you look like you lost weight. Is he feeling okay? Ed, are you feeling
I'm feeling
okay?
fine. I'm feeling more energetic, and I did. I lost a bunch of weight. And I started losing weight after I had this heart attack scare, which wasn't a heart attack, but I decided to deal with that. And my sugar was borderline, so I wanted to deal with that as well.
Yeah. Same situation here. I dropped like 43 pounds. So over 6 months now. I started New Year's Eve. I started my weight loss journey. I was watching what I was eating 2 weeks prior, but so really December 15th or 16th is when I had that scare about the blood pressure. So since December 15th, December 16th, I started dieting, and then I started exercising in January. And I never stopped. So I'm on that bicycle, the e-bike, and I ride it like a mofo. Ed, I spend more time on that bike than I do anything else. Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale is going to be joining us for the final 15 minutes here. And I appreciate him. He's in the green room. He's ready to go. Always great to see Lieutenant Joe. I want to go to some of the starred messages. Schmitty's in the building, 57 months. A member, Nanos, said, my doors are always open. Smitty's always paying attention. His door's always open, but it closes real quick if he doesn't like you. And he doesn't like the FBI. So that door was closed to the FBI. And he was like, I am handling this on my own, until he realized he was effed in the A. And he said, I need to get the FBI in here. Good to see you. Thank you so much for the 5. Trust me, he's in CODIS. That's why he's covered up. The boo-boo he made to identify him on February 23rd. They're coming for you, SJD. Well, thank you for your expressing your thoughts. Smitty sending us $30. Thank you. She says, my DutyRon account has grown. I have a spreadsheet dedicated to DutyRon. I've missed this family. Thank you. Thank you so much. Joey Brooklyn, a member for 63 months, he's the reason we're on YouTube. So Joey Brooklyn, everybody can congratulate and thank him. He's the reason why I'm on YouTube and here with Ed Wallace. So Joey Brooklyn, great YouTube friend, and he's a personal friend of mine. Joey's been in my house breaking bread with me, just same thing as Ed Wallace. We've gone out with the wives together. Always good to see you, Joey. Everybody subscribe to Joey Brooklyn. Beamer, a member for 30 months, 29 months. Thank you for all you do. Oh, no. Thank you for being a moderator and helping us out. All right, let's listen to this late breaking news. This broke just like maybe 35, 40 minutes before we went live. Sheriff Nonads released the 2 notes. Ed, why is he released? Like, this is the 6-month mark, right? I don't like to call it an anniversary. 6-month mark. He now thinks, okay, this is a great idea. I'm going to release these 2 notes. We already knew the contents of one of these notes, right? Basically, even both of these communiques, because of TMZ and all the leaks, we knew about this stuff. So there's nothing groundbreaking here. There's no revelation, right?
That's why it's easy for him to release it.
Unbelievable. So it's just something to him to do to get the
Here, look at this. Don't look at this. Okay, it's misdirection.
Yeah.
Alert. Thanks for joining us at noon. I'm Rebecca Taylor. We have late breaking news in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. She went missing almost 6 months ago. Let's get right over to 13 News anchor Valerie Cavazos at the Live Center. Valerie, new information has just been released.
That's right. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is releasing the full contents of a ransom note, as well as a second note sent by someone claiming to be Guthrie's abductor. Both of those notes were sent to our news tip email at 13 News. We've previously released portions of those notes that would not harm the ongoing investigation. Now, both are being made public in hope that someone might provide a tip based on the word choice and style of the letters. Please listen and watch carefully. The first note was sent on February 2nd, the day after Guthrie was discovered to be missing. It was addressed to Savannah Guthrie and said, quote, "We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. As she will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. And we will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. You will need to send Bitcoin in the amount of $4 million USD before 5 p.m. on Thursday the 5th. Now it goes on to say, if payment is not received, the ransom will be increased to 6 million USD, which will need to be paid by 5 p.m. on Monday the 9th. And once payment is received to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop-off location back in Tucson.
What did you think about that, Ed? This is not anything new, and I got to bring Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale on with us because I can't have him sitting there. I love this guy. LT, thank you for being here on a Friday night. We appreciate you. Our community loves you. Retired Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale from the NYPD. Ed, I want to go to you first. This is nothing new. We knew about the contents of this note. You're just putting it out there. But most people who take someone for ransom don't want to hold them for extended periods of time. And that's why this 7-day thing is like, okay, so we'll put her up for 7 days. It's an 84-year-old ailing woman who's on heart medicine and who has limited mobility. We're going to hold her up for 7 days and wait for you to give us our $6 million.
Right. And if you don't give us our $6 million, we're going to charge you a late fee and a tax. And it's, you have until this time now to pay us. I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. I've never seen it. My wife was major case detective and she worked a bunch of kidnappings. Usually there was always an implied threat of harm to the victim. That, hey, if you don't pay up, we're going to cut a finger off. We're going to send an ear to you, or we're going to kill them.
Right. Hey,
no, we're going to give you another 5 days, and then you're going to have to pay us this much.
Let's go to the LT, who was a commander of a detective squad in the largest police department in the United States, the NYPD, our department. So, Joe, your thoughts on this? I mean, it's not anything new, but they released it today.
I just think the timing is ridiculous on this, that he chooses this time to let this out. Once again, it's the idiot in Pima. I'm sure he said to them, or he may not have because of his arrogance, said, I'm going to release it. Do what you got to do, because they already know the direction they're going with this. And I agree with Ed. There's always an implied threat. There's always the fact that people that commit these crimes, kidnappings, will give proof of life to say, look, yeah, I could prove she's safe. All right. But then you get the second note. And I know you're going to get into that, but the second note is totally different. And it's pointing in a direction of what we all, surmised way back when, that, she was of poor health, that she didn't survive this event. And they were just hanging on as long as they could to get further away, to throw them off, to make them think this was going on. And they just kept getting further away from the original crime. And the fact that the hair isn't popping on it, nothing's popping up. Well, numbnuts nanos, all right, didn't secure that crime scene. They probably could have got a hell of a lot more. Ed's the expert on that. All right, they could have secured it. We talk about this time and time again. Time was of the essence. He reallocated his own personnel for his own selfish needs, all right, instead of doing what he should have been doing in the beginning. So I think the FBI has got this, and I agree with you, Ron. The FBI is going to come across with some leads. I'm sure if I were them, honestly, he could be the lead agency. I wouldn't tell him jack crap about anything right now if they were in the direction.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, are we wearing the same shirt, LT?
LBA, baby.
Hold on, I got to go full screen with mine. Woohoo!
I didn't get that memo.
Hold on, I got to show Joe. Yeah, we're both wearing the Lieutenant's Benevolent Association. I did not call you, unless you were watching.
Ed, I swear. That was, but Ed, I can tell you one thing, bud. You know the weight you lost?
Yeah.
I found it.
Oh, okay. I don't wish that on nobody.
Let's continue on with this. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, let's continue on with this. If payment is not received, the ransom will be increased to $6 million USD, which will be needed to be paid by 5 p.m. on Monday the 9th. Once payment is received, remember we were following this every day in the month of February. If it's not received to the Bitcoin address below on Monday the 9th, we know that came and went. Once payment is received, the Bitcoin address will release her in 12 hours deposit to a safe drop-off in Tucson.
If a payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday, the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. Your mother is aware of this, and her life is in your hands.
Let me be the let's play devil's advocate here. I'm asking the chat this, and I'm going to ask my two esteemed colleagues. If you received this memo about your mother who was abducted, and you had the funds to pay this, and I'm saying Savannah Guthrie is a millionaire. She makes millions of dollars on her show. Would you pay it? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'll go to Ed first, then I'll go to Joe, and we'll go to the chat right after that.
Yeah, if I had that kind of money and so forth, yeah, I would do whatever it took to get my loved one back.
Especially based on the wording that we're seeing right here. It says, if payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed.
Okay. Yeah, but 2 deadlines, you only make 1 deadline, and then you do the implied threat. You don't give your victim's family 2 deadlines.
Lieutenant?
I agree with Ed. They were seeking a proof of life up until this point. I know that. All right, but they weren't getting anything. And I know that they're taking these 2 notes, they're going word, not line by line, word by word, picking out what the similarities are, putting a rhyme or reason to see if it's the same people. I think Ed is right because Savannah wanted to do that. I think they held her back from doing that because in her mind, in her family's mind, all right, and everybody surrounding her, what if it was, now I feel bad. I feel terrible. I didn't pay this and my mother's dead. It's such a delicate balance for a family member, but the FBI still has to be the lead to tell her what has happened on similar cases or another case, nothing like this, where they see similarities and where they think they can go with it. But to go silent for this long, nobody's hearing anything. It's the same thing. And now all of a sudden it's popping up because somebody got bored and had nothing to do down in Pima. So
people are saying in the chat, without proof of life, some people are saying they wouldn't have paid it. And I don't doubt that they asked for proof of life. And they probably responded back to this and said, listen, we'll pay this if we know that Nancy is alive.
That's the smart thing. That's the smart play. And that's how we handle it, with negotiations with the major case or the FBI and so forth. You got to have proof of life.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but that said, according to the second note, which, the mother, everything that was in the first note was a lie. The mother was not safe. She was dead already.
Right. So Linda Beatty says, Savannah should have paid. I would have. And Under Your Scar says, no way.
Other
people are never going to pay without proof of life.
Right.
It's
not wise to do that.
That's the norm. But we're dealing outside the norm here. You're dealing with an abnormal investigation from the beginning. You're dealing with abnormal circumstances. All right. And you're dealing with abnormal sheriffs all right, that had to take the lead on certain things instead of just throwing everything down and saying, run with it, guys. I have no experience in this. But no, the statements he made, taking people off the hook, that second note is, is very telling and everything. And I believe Harvey got on there and he was saying there was only one Bitcoin. They wanted to prove that they had this information, right? To prove that they had the information of in nature. If you read the second note, nature,
Yeah, she's in with she's one
right.
with nature. Don't get me started on Harvey Levin. Oh, please.
But again, that's what makes this quite different as well. We have a lot of electronic communications, not not voice recordings over a telephone or anything like that. And then you have electronic means of payment, Bitcoin, not cash. Okay. And I saw in the chat somebody was talking about the movie Ransom with Mel Gibson.
Right.
Well, there is a $1 million+ award that's out there for anybody that gives up the information about that, and there's nothing. Crickets.
Yeah. Thank you for gifting a membership, and Schmitty, thanks again for wishy-washy with the ransom notes. Thank you for the super chats. All right, let's play the rest of this, and then we'll get to the chat with your questions. Question #Ed, #Ron, #Joe.
It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. Now it continues. You will not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. Do not play games. Law enforcement will not be able to help you. The ransom note ends with a Bitcoin address that we have redacted. Final line in the message aims to prove the person writing the note has knowledge of Nancy Guthrie's property, saying, quote, she had a white smartwatch on the floor of the foot of her bed, and the white floodlight in backyard was destroyed. 13 News immediately turned the note over to the Pima County Sheriff's Department, who forwarded it to the FBI. 4 days later, another note was sent to our news tip email from the alleged abductor. This one had a much different tone. Addressing the Guthrie's family, it said, quote, we did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. We never intended to hurt her. That was not our intention. She perished shortly after she was taken. We believe it was heart-related. She is buried in nature now. Nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome. We want your family to know this and hope you all can find peace. We are.
What do you guys make of that? Joe, I'll go to you first, and then we'll go back to Ed. I think we kind of touched on it a bit.
You're going from two extremes. In the first note, you have callous individuals who don't care one way or the other, and then you got somebody that's apologizing for something that happened. The knowledge of that watch and everything in the first note, the timing of it is important here as it progressed and everything. Maybe you were dealing with them, and maybe this is somebody that's associated to this case on the second note, and they're getting a change of heart saying, listen, don't beat yourself up. That's somebody that's in the scope of things, or it could be a total bull, crap statement. But I wouldn't eliminate any of this right now. I would get those two notes, go by it, and then say, start your investigation all over again, thinking a different way that she did pass on that night, and where can you go from there? Reinvestigate it again and again until you come up with something that, makes sense to a lot of people. We would do that.
Yeah,
100%. And maybe they couldn't give the proof of life, well, because she was dead. Instead, they started saying, to show the veracity of who they were, is that, okay, we saw this at this location in the house and that at this location in the house, in order to prove that it was them, that they were in the house at the time of the abduction. Okay, and that could be easily verified by the crime scene photographs and the reports, notes, and things taken of the crime scene examination. And so, okay.
I got to tell you, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. That second note would almost be like somebody very close to Nancy Guthrie that's telling Savannah, there's nothing you could have done about it. It happened shortly thereafter. That's somebody that's trying to do that. That's somebody that may have been very close to the family that is involved in this, that's setting that tone, saying, I'm not going to put these people through that. I just want them to know this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. You have to take every scenario. We said this from the beginning. You cannot get tunnel vision with a case like this. You have to go all over. You have to throw a lot of nets out there. You have to get everybody's brain going on it. And, you know, they'll go word by word with this. They'll see what's going on with it, and they'll see if they have a common, denominator between the two.
Hey, boss, I wanted to ask you, as a retired lieutenant commander, would you look at a case like this in 6 months? We're at the 6-month mark with no end in sight, no new information that we know about publicly. But as a boss, as a lieutenant commander, if you have a case like this and you go in nowhere, not that I'm saying you would take your detectives off of it, but is there a protocol perhaps in the playbook here where you would take a full set of new eyes and either add new guys and girls to the investigation, or completely switch out and start fresh? Is that a possibility? Because I've seen that people ask that question in chats, and I've seen it online, and I wanted to get your thoughts because you are a retired lieutenant commander.
I think what people are looking for is they're waiting for us to use the word cold case. All right. Where you start assigning it to different people. I never really went along with it at this time of the game. We've had cases that go on for 2, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, and people still always go back. I'm not going to name them. We just got phone calls on 2 of those cases. You need fresh eyes. You need fresh thoughts. You need it from people that have investigated these cases before. The FBI is on board with this. They're not giving up, and they could bring in all the people that they need to start reinvestigating as well. Pima doesn't have that luxury of the numbers, but the FBI does. All right. And if they want to reach out to other people and just sit down and say, do a session of what ifs. All right. Get the old blackboard, sit there and say, we have X, Y, and Z. We need to go back to A, B, and C and see how we can bring everything in the middle together. That's what you have to do in this case to eliminate what you really feel strong about. No, we don't believe this, but we do believe this. Anything that everybody concurs on, that's a solid piece of evidence, then you start working on that angle until you eliminate it. All right. It does get frustrating. Trust me. It gets frustrating. It's a daunting task at times, especially with this one, because you're dealing with balancing the family and, idiots in the department where you got to just keep them out of the limelight there. But yes, I just think this is him rearing his ugly head, looking for attention again, because it died down.
I remember when he said in the beginning about, he wasn't concerned about the motive. Okay. And I'm like, what? We'll figure that out later after we identify who did it. I said, well, motive and opportunity helps you figure out who did it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, dude?
Yeah. He never at any time mentions victimology, and I know that he's not doing the investigation. This guy is, again, he's a politician. He was an elected official. Somehow he was able to win by 400 and something votes. The people of Pima County elected this guy, but he is a career law enforcement officer. He spent 30 years in Pima County in different ranks, starting out getting in nefariously to the corrections department when leaving his Texas position, lying about his police career. But so Sheriff Nanos worked his way up the ranks in Pima County in law enforcement. So people are saying, oh, he's just a politician. He became a politician, but he spent a good part of his 30 years in the Pima County Sheriff's Department in different various capacities. So I don't know what his accolades are or what he did. Nobody really has ever spoken about what Sheriff Nanos's experience is as it pertains to investigations, but he sucks just as bad as the investigators from the Massachusetts State Police and the local police department that are investigating the Karen Reed case. This guy and those guys should be friends because they all suck. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking to it. Let's listen to the rest of this.
Valerie, thank you. Those letters come as we reach 6 months since Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her home in the foothills. The biggest clue that investigators have released so far is this video taken from Guthrie's doorbell surveillance camera. It shows a man investigators believe to be a suspect in her disappearance. In a new press release, the Sheriff's Department says that 2 videos recovered from the camera may be from 2 separate days. They suggest that he took steps to prepare for the abduction. The sheriff's department is also asking the public if they know of any individuals who know this man and who may have observed changes in behavior around the beginning of February. That includes a change in mood.
Isn't this odd? On the 6-month mark, we're hearing about paying attention to changing of moods and changing appearances and unexplained injuries. Where the hell was this plea on day 5? Where was this in the first month of this investigation or first 2 weeks? They never asked the public to check for somebody who looks like this guy. And don't forget, the FBI ID'd this suspect as a male, 5'9" to 5'10", and that's it. That's all we have. But now on the 6-month mark, you're asking the public to see about someone cleaning a vehicle or changing his normal routine, unexplained injuries. Come on. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, Ron, Ed brought up a very good point, though. He used the word, one of my favorite words is victimology. All right. And if you're going to do a victimology and you're going to do it all, and you're going to start from scratch, which is probably going to happen with this, with a new set of, eyes on this, new ideas and everything. But how far back are they going to go on her victimology? How far back? I mean, are they going to go back on the family dynamics, all right, of what went on, through other things too? You're going to offend people when you do these investigations, but you are the one that's ultimately has to go and have this case prosecuted should the time arise. And you got to say you covered every angle of it. All right. And I would go back very far for everybody that visited that house, because they did leave a clue about the watch. All right. About the watch and where it was located at the foot of the bed. Right. So they did that, but that could have been somebody who just had knowledge of it. All right. But if it was found right at that location, they did recover it, the watch. It wasn't it put back someplace?
Yeah, it was inside. It was inside at the foot of her bed on the floor.
Well, so then that person has intimate knowledge of that. All right. That's where you focus on. This is where your leads are solid, right, Ed? You go back to that. And who's got intimate knowledge of that? All right.
Right.
Person that was there, that knew about that. And so you got to go more so with the first note as far as the beginning of it. And now that this other note is coming through, I really feel that if it is tied in with these individuals, all right, because it's not just one person, it's somebody that has like doesn't have a heart, just has a change of attitude, just knowing that if anything happens, well, at least I try to tell everybody this happened because I never wanted this to happen. You got to look at every possibility.
Right. Yeah. Let's go to the chat. Hashtag DutyRon, hashtag Ron, hashtag Ed, hashtag Joe. We'll take your questions for the last 5 minutes of this live stream. We're live an hour and 7 minutes. Again, I'm going to be traveling to South Carolina tomorrow early. I got to get up at 4 a.m. One of my partners brother housing police veteran, has come down with stage 4 World Trade Center related cancer. And they gave him 18 months to live, is what his doctors told him. So I'm heading down there. It was the last great friend that I worked with in my in Fugitive. So he was my partner from the beginning in 1991 when we were in housing in PSA 2, Scotty Gallagher, and I'm gonna go down there and hang out with him and his wife, along with my retired sergeant. So we're going down there to spend a good weekend and a couple of days with him. He's starting chemotherapy and radiation. So prayers for Scotty, my brother in blue. I know you know him, boss. We all worked in housing together. Scotty, great guy. And he's in good spirits. So we're going to go down there and hang out with him for at least 3 or 4 days. So I didn't see any questions come through. But I do want to take some questions if you guys have them. Hashtag Ed, hashtag Ron, hashtag Joe. I'm trying to keep it easy and simple. Anybody? Ed, Joe, you have any final thoughts before we wrap?
No, I just think that it's odd, 6 month, mark, and we're readdressing things that should have been gone over and over and over. And I know the FBI did. I know they tore this thing apart. So they have a direction they want to go, and it may not be the direction that the sheriff's office wants to go. But I think if they would have established interstate at this point, they could have took the investigation over without him saying a word to them. So
Yeah. I'm just curious to see what the future holds here in this case, because it's really baffling that with the amount of technology that we have, and the DOT cameras we thought would be come into play here, they yielded nothing. They avoided these DOT cameras, which is a clear indicator that it's somebody who knows the area. Because if it was some person like, we recently on the Today Show, we had this psycho that was watching from outside behind the cameras, right? We saw that nutbag come into the studio. So initially I thought it would be maybe just some random nutbag that was fascinated or fixated on Savannah and wanted to hurt her and her family. But this is more telling. For me as an investigator, I look at this and these are people who had intimate knowledge of the interior of that home, of the setup for Nancy Guthrie. They knew that she didn't have a good security system in that house. They maybe didn't know about the subscription, or they may have known about the subscription. But this was a bold move to go into an 84-year-old woman's home in the middle of the night and take her out of there. We know that she was taken out of there because her blood is on the front vestibule. And again, it's, for me, this is somebody who either did work on that house, was a worker in that house, that had knowledge of the family, that had knowledge of the lapse in security at that location. They knew about their family dynamic. My mom, may she rest in peace, died in her late 70s, right? She had heart disease. My mom did not ever travel anywhere without me or my brother or my sister. Ever. We never put her in a ride share. And I'm not poo-pooing what they did with Nancy here. This is maybe a common thing that they do over there. But Ed, you have your dad. You just celebrated a birthday, right? In his 90s, and your mom. Would you call them an Uber to go back and forth between your house and her house?
No, I'm the Uber.
There you go.
Right.
So for me, different strokes for different folks, and I'm this is in no way hating on Savannah and the family there, but if we could learn something from this we say this over and over again, make sure you protect your elderly family and loved ones. I don't care if it's your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your sister, your brother, your neighbor. You can't do that. You can't. You think that it's a good idea to just throw somebody in Uber. If you're in a pinch and you need to do that and it's an emergency, I'm all for it.
On that note, Ron, I just got to ask, and you two, Ed, if you did drop your mom off, all right, what's the first thing you're going to do? You are physically dropping her off.
You walk her in. You bring her in.
You're going to go in with her.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. They got to go back to what makes sense in this, and they have to go back to the very beginning of this. And they're probably doing it and beating it up over and over and waiting to see what goes on. But you know what? Come on, Mom, I'll take you inside. You look around. Okay, Mom, everything's good.
Yeah, get her settled in. Get her settled in. Make sure that she's
100%.
Diana says they didn't even walk her into the house. When Tommaso dropped her off, he just put her into the driveway and watched her go into the house. And it's not even clear if she went through that garage. I think that's the story, that the garage door opened and she walked in and then he pulled away. I mean, who fucking does that? I don't know. I don't know.
Now, you have to, then that's where I spoke about the family dynamics. That's when you have to go back and say, is this routine to do this? Is this a commonality, a common occurrence that just to come in there and drop Mom off, she walks in by herself? Or was it just this night? It just happened to happen that night. These are questions that have to be asked of Nancy, of a sister, all right? And I'm sure they were asked, and I don't know how they were satisfied with the answers, all right? But once again, Ed, you and I discussed with Ron the last time. You remember when we discussed body language during the
Absolutely.
All right. I didn't like the body language. I
No?
didn't like the body language at all. So there's a lot that's still unclear to me, and how they're handling it. I'm not going to make opinion on that, but I would say that you have to refocus and go back again. And if you have to have that talk again.
No, you need a fresh pair of eyes here. You need a whole new team to come and look at this, and you're going to start from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
Joey Brooklyn, I know his mom is elderly, and she lives, out of his area where he lives. He drives back and forth into Brooklyn to take his mom shopping and take her to doctor's appointments. I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat that understand what we're saying, and this is, if we can learn something from this, that's the main thing that we would take away from this this tragedy is. You don't just leave your elderly parents to fend for themselves. You need to do the right thing. And, there's no excuse for this. There's no excuse for it. If you love your family and you love your parents, you don't turn your backs on them when they need you, because they raised us from little babies, right? They took care of us when we needed it. Now it's our turn to step up and take care of them.
Because of the World Cup and the troubles in the Middle East, many of my federal contracts were put on hold. So I've been off the whole month of July, and I'm going to be off for the most of August. And so I took advantage of that to bring my 93-year-old mother, 91-year-old father, he just turned 91 a couple of weeks ago, down to my Jersey Shore house because they love it down here, and they're the reasons I bought down here, because as a child in the '60s they took us to vacation here all the time, and so I brought them down. So they're almost here a full month, and my father's talking about squatters' rights now and not leaving here. So it's like we cleared all their doctor's appointments out so that I can get them down here and spend some quality time with them and have them enjoy. And they also celebrated their 69th wedding anniversary down here as well.
Wow. Yeah, I saw the pictures you shared with me. It was beautiful seeing them both sitting on the dock, looking at the water. And
it reminds me of the song, right? Sitting on the dock of the bay.
You're right, though. That's the important things, but I'm telling you right now, I would take more than a fresh set of eyes on this. I would get some really hardcore retired people that can get into this thing, that can put a rhyme or reason to what's going on, exactly. But you know what the problem is, Ron? The problem is, in cases like this, we would keep going back to the evidence, and it's just not there. Right. All right. It's not enough of it. If they can't even determine the hair, all right, that's over there because it's not in the system. And then we have to wait down the road for that to pop, that this hair was there, and it belongs to somebody who finally gets jammed up. And then that's what cold cases do. I mean, they, when you finally say that this is a cold case and something pops up and somebody's in the system. But if you're going to reinvestigate it, bring in good minds, good people that can go around and say, well, what do we have that's solid that we can, put something together with? And if you don't have that, you're really at a loss here. You're at a loss to get. The fresh eyes can only do so much on suppositions of what's going on, what they think happened, but without the evidence to tie into it. So you got to take scenario. You have to take what opportunity, who had motive, and I hope they went back on every record available. Any calls to that area, everything. I hope they systematically broke that down and they eliminated it that way, because in the beginning they were pretty hot to trot with those warrants they were doing.
Yeah. Here's a question for Ed. First one that I saw so far. I might have missed some. Ed, do you think IGG will bear fruit? Thank you, James.
Well, it hasn't thus far, and I don't know if that's because they didn't get any quality genetic materials to do IgG. I don't know what's going on. I was hoping it was going to. I was hoping it was going to yield a family tree, and then a suspect. But we haven't heard anything yet.
Katina, moderator, channel member, friend, fellow patriot, says hashtag at Ed and at DutyRon and at Joe. Do you think all facts, evidence, etc., could be sorted by AI and help new investigations?
I'm a little leery about the AI aspect of this. I think you need something more than that. It could point you in a direction. We've had a lot of problems with AI on certain cases and everything. I wouldn't, put my money on it. But when you have nothing to lose. But you're still going to need to tie in the ends, and nobody can explain it better than Ed without going into detail where we would really go on this without giving out, because we still have the FBI doing this. All right. I'm sure they have a list of top suspects in this case, and they're trying to do what they have to do to tie them into the case. He, she, it could be just anybody, but you got to go back to square one. And you got to reinvestigate it and say, well, we don't have this and this. What could we do without it? And that's where somebody like Ed would come in and say, well, I think I would concentrate on this.
Yeah. This the finance aspect, Colleen. I said that in the beginning. You got to look at where there would be a financial benefit, and this is something that happened behind the scenes way, way, way long ago, and the FBI, along with Pima County investigators, have checked all the finances. This is part of the investigation checklist. You go through who's got power of attorney, who's the financial advisor, who handles the money, trust funds, all this different stuff is part of that victimology, where they'll look at the potentials for who could have a hand in this. Kristen says, question: could they have messed up the sample and they won't be able to? I'm not
sure. They could have if they didn't package it correctly. Yeah, if you put that kind of sample in plastic and it's not breathing, and you get an opportunistic mold or bacteria or fungus gets in there and starts attacking the hair, it could be detrimental to the genetic markers. And by the time it gets to the lab, it could be a shit show.
Yep. LJ 5149 says, I'm still pissed off about that damn mat. Yeah, we all are.
All right, Ron, I got to run.
Where are you running to? You got to the bathroom?
No, but Linus does.
All right, very good. Hey, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I want to thank Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale for joining us. We got a lot more to talk about. Brian Kohlberger's trying to plea a Hail Mary and get a new trial. That's not going to happen, but that's in the news. We still got to talk about that, and there's a lot of other cases that we're going to discuss. And Joe, you're running for a position on Long Island. Maybe you want to talk a minute about that while Ed segues out?
Ed, you look great, pal. I'll see you next time. All right.
Thank you, Joe. Good luck with the election.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Yeah, I'm running for New York State Assembly in District 11 on Long Island. It's going to be a tough race, but I'm up for the challenge. We need to change New York. We need to change this country. This is just craziness going on over here. If we don't get Blakeman in and somebody to steer the ship in the right direction and challenge what's going on in the city, we're going to have bigger problems in the next 2 years, and then it's going to just manifest beyond that. But that being said, I'm putting the time and effort into this. That's needed. I just need support from people to get out and vote. Every single vote counts. All right. It's very important. So I know everybody's across the country over here, but I'm speaking to everybody across the country. In all your elections, school board elections, local town elections, they matter. You need to get out there. You need to do something, because don't complain when the shit hits the fan and it's going the opposite way and you had a chance to do it. So
Amen to that, brother. Well, I hope you win, and I hope that everybody who's in that district and that is available to vote. I think Joey Brooklyn is in that district. Joey, make sure you get out. What's the date for the vote on that?
It's this coming November. It's going to be, we have 100 days out, I believe, as of today. We're 100 days out. So it's a tough area, but people are disgusted. All right. People are disgusted. And the only way to do this is a grassroots approach. We have to get out there and knock on the doors, talk to people, tell them what you're saying, what you're all about, make them cross party lines to understand that this isn't the Democratic Party people are used to. This is a dangerous Democratic Party that's out there right now, especially with that idiot in the city who's wreaking havoc. And you want to know something, Ron? You brought up something before, and I've been touching on this lately. Over 500,000 people live in public housing in New York City, and they are the forgotten residents. All right. And I think people should be reaching out to them and tell them that their vote counts so they could change the conditions they live in. All
and
right?
we know more than anybody about the all the hardships and all the things and the struggles that go on in New York City public housing.
Absolutely.
Crime is through the roof. There's people who are good people who live there and are prisoners within their own homes. And that's been going on at least since 1991 that I know of, because I patrolled New York City housing as a New York City police officer. I want to thank you, Joe, and I wish you best of the luck. And I want to thank all of our replay viewers, our super chatters, our moderators, our folks who send cups of coffee, and also Patreon. You guys are the backbone and heartbeat of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We're approaching 800,000 subscribers. How amazing is that? I want to thank everybody that has subscribed, that's new, everyone that's been here for a long time, and everybody in between. We love and appreciate you, and we don't take your subscription for granted. We know that you have a lot of other choices out there, and we appreciate that you come to us for the facts. And between Ed Wallace and folks like retired Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale and so many others that we have on as guests, you guys learn, and you learn the right way. We're not blowing smoke up your rear end. We're telling you the facts, and we're telling you the truth. So great to see you. Thank you all for being here. And on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to wish you a good weekend. Enjoy, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six. Peace and love.